I have the ability to look into a body. I don't get that 3D scan, that people get of all the different, but I can sense emotional, physical, and spiritual blockages within the body. So what I see is contributing to a lot of physical issues, or it's really got to do with past lives and also trapped emotions. And then, so I have the ability to see where those trapped emotions are, what age they started at, what are some of the limiting beliefs or some of the incidences that might be trapped in the body. And that information just comes in. And then the other aspect of my gifts that I guess I have, well, I know I have because this is what's been happening, is that I have the ability to transmute some of those blockages. So transmutation is the ability to help, I guess I hold a particular frequency of a vibration that helps move blockages from the person's body, sort of.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Lisa Wetzel, and I have beautiful Peggy Oberthier with me. And Peggy is a medical and energy intuitive, and I'm so excited to see you and to visit with you, Peggy. Thanks for being here.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be on your show today, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited. We're going to have kind of an interesting talk today. We're going to talk about healing, about spiritual gifts, blockages, and karma. But before we start jumping in to those specific topics, I would like everybody to have a little bit of background on how you came into the medical intuitive gift, how all of that started. So would you mind telling us a little bit about your history and what you do?
Thank you for that question. Yes. Well, I sort of fell into it. It's sort of a funny story. I grew up as an atheist, really, from the ages of about 20 to, I guess, 44. And I went through a serious crisis, like a lot of people do in their spiritual awakening journey. I was caught up in a horrible prison riot where I worked, and I ended up in a completely distraught state, both physically, mentally, and I guess spiritually. And I sought answers, and I went to all these different alternative modalities, and I started having a couple of mystical experiences of connecting to, different things, and realizing actually that, there isn't just, when we die, that's it. I'd been a staunch atheist because I guess as a kid, it was too much to understand that we just died. It was just too painful that I couldn't, I don't know. It was hard for me to reconcile, especially when I studied at university, but all this, like, why would a God allow all this suffering? And so my brain turned to atheism. So during this spiritual awakening period, I went to a number of retreats. I had cranial sacral therapy, and I connected to these incredible, I guess, beings at the time. I didn't realize at the time. And I started meditating, and I started experiencing the void. And it awakened part of my intuition that I didn't really know was there. Then one of the turning points was I had my Akashic records read by this beautiful lady who said, "You have these, claircognizance. You have clairvoyance." And I said, "Oh, I had no idea." So I started just playing around with that a little bit in my workspace, where I was working as a counselor with adolescents in a school. And that was kind of fun because I could feel and know what was happening with some of my students before they knew, and they were, it just made it faster, the whole process faster. But the turning point really was when I had a session I'd booked with a previous guest of yours, Patrice Christofiak. I was just really curious about my past lives. I was curious about if I could heal my knee pain. And I was wondering if my knee pain was related to a past life. So I booked a session with him. And at the end of the 3-hour session, he just said, "You're a medical intuitive as well." And I said, "What are you talking about?" So he helped activate my gifts. And I guess, it's funny, I'd never really tuned into a body to see if I could scan and get information. And it was all coming through. So I forced Patrice to sort of start a mentorship. I said, no, you can't just, he said, just send me your photograph and I'll put you on my directory. And I said, Patrice, I think I need a bit more guidance because, my heart was saying, yes, 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 this is so amazing. I finally found what my calling was, but my head was going, hang on, this is, it's just a bit too much for the brain to kind of comprehend. And because the information comes in as a knowing, there is this pause where you say, did I make that up? Like, is that true? Like, when you say, oh, this is what it is. So it took me a couple of months of mentoring with him and going on calls with him to really boost my confidence. And so that was in February of 2024. And then I just started taking clients, honestly, within June. And I launched full time in January, and I haven't looked back. So it's just been, yeah, it's been amazing. And after the very first session, when I joined this call with Patrice and he asked me to come in, and I just went to bed crying, going, I can't believe that I finally found the modality that just serves my heart and soul so that I can help people in the quickest way possible. Because, I've been doing talk therapy, I've been doing EFT tapping. It's like, it's important. People need to do those kind of processes, but gosh, to be able to help people shift things in such a quick way, it just lights up your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So you've been talking about being a medical intuitive. So tell us exactly what is a medical intuitive?
This is such a good question because it doesn't really have a unified definition. The way that we look at it is that I have the ability to look into a body. I don't get that 3D scan, that people get of all the different, but I can sense emotional, physical, and spiritual blockages within the body. So what I see is contributing to a lot of physical issues, it's really got to do with past lives and also trapped emotions. And then, so I have the ability to see where those trapped emotions are, what age they started at, what are some of the limiting beliefs or some of the incidences that might be trapped in the body. And that information just comes in. And then the other aspect of my gifts that I guess I have, well, I know I have because this is what's been happening, is that I have the ability to transmute some of those blockages. So transmutation is the ability to help, I guess I hold a particular frequency of a vibration that helps move blockages from the person's body, sort of like that John Coffey movie in The Green Mile, where I don't know if you're familiar with that film, where this mystical, inmate holds this mouse that has been stompled on by one of the guards, and he puts it in his hand, and he holds the mouse that's sort of half dead, and then he closes his eyes, and then all these like bugs start flying out, and there's like this stream, and then the mouse is healed. Now, I mean, I can't heal a mouse like that, but I do physically move energy, in the form sometimes of like, sometimes I actually physically vomit. Sometimes I physically, I'm doing all this shaking and burping, and the clients are just saying, what's going on? But that's how the energy is shifting. So those are my gifts. So I guess Patrice and we all decided that, medical intuition is the best way to sort of bridge the gap between the medical world and the spiritual world, because I was always interested in the mind-body connection, and I think that this is really a good way for people to understand that we are 100% connected to our body physically through our spirit and our emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I have people ask me all the time, like they may have a shoulder issue, and they want to know what emotion or what energetic pattern is related to this shoulder injury. So what I do is I refer them to you. so, and
Well,
people
thank
like
you. I
you.
love it.
So So, but the reason why I kind of like for you to be able to explain how an emotion or an energetic pattern or something, a belief system, something that may have happened in a past life can get embedded like into a shoulder, and how you can help to move that out and why.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Lisa. So, so it's really interesting. So I just channel the information that comes through. So some people might come to me because they have knee pain, but the whole time, or I'm working on their heart chakra, or because that's what the information that comes through. So how it works for me is I will get mirrored symptoms in my body, and that spirit telling me where I have to start. And in my understanding is that in the human experience, we're supposed to have an emotion and then it's supposed to leave our body. We're supposed to have an experience of expressing it somehow, whether it's a tear, whether it's shaking. I mean, you watch a 3-year-old, they are getting rid of emotion. They are flailing around, they are shaking, they're crying. They know how to get rid of an emotion. It's only the adults that say, that's enough, you're okay, stop it. Or they say they shame them or whatever. But I think, especially, people of my age, 55 plus, we just didn't have that vocabulary. And nobody said have a feeling, you know. And so what I see is that, the brain can process it, but the body, it stays in the body. How that works on a mechanical level or biological level, Lisa, I have no idea. I just know that energy needs to move through the body. I just think we are energy bodies. So, that sort of Chinese acupuncture, that medicine view of that we are this system of nerves and fascia and energy. So an emotion get stuck in the body? I just think because it doesn't. We Emotions have energy and we are unable to express it, so it will get caught. So for me to move through it, it's very interesting. I Spirit will give me guided dates and events of particular issues. So I'll say there is anger caught in C4 in your neck from when you were 5. And they go, oh yeah, that's when blah, blah, blah. Or I say there is like this shock stuck at the top of C7. I said, it was like a really bad shock. I said, oh, that's when I fell off my horse. So there's all of these instances. And sometimes I'll get messages about, let's say, prior like childhood trauma, but the guides will only give me the information if the person can handle it. It's not traumatizing and it's helping them just get rid of it. And what I see with trapped emotions is that sometimes from that standpoint, that charge, um, you then might get other things happening in that area, like you might get entity attachments because it's just this weakness. I just think that sometimes the body produces a pain because the pain is easier to handle than the emotion. Like if I'm
Mm.
saying, I think for some women, or some people, and they go, I've got a migraine. It's a lot easier to say I have a migraine to your family just to have 4 hours by yourself in than setting a boundary. So universe will send you all these things for you to rest, for you to set boundaries, for you to say no. So I feel like if we're not setting our intention with our emotions, our bodies will tell us like, you need to do something. So I think that's the guides just working through us to sort of slap us on the face sometimes to
Mm.
make changes, like, shoulder pain. Okay, hang on. This is like literal. You are taking too much on. You've got too much on your shoulders. It's like sometimes it's that obvious, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Mhm.
how it works for me. And the past life stuff will come in because sometimes I'll get a message, and I'm sure you're the same through the Akashic records. You just say, oh, you've done this for lifetimes. Wow, you've taken a vow of suffering. Oh my goodness. So, and in
Mhm.
terms of releasing it, I use many different techniques. Sometimes I get the clients to say statements sometimes, and then sometimes I use light language transmissions to help them they've got healing codes and transmissions to help release. But generally, a lot of my beautiful clients feel energy. They can feel it. They can shake. They're burping. They're moving around. I'm shaking and burping. It's this very energetic release, oftentimes.
Yeah. So, what are some things? Can you name some things that are a little bit more common that you run across, like specific health issues, or something that may be a mental imbalance, like depression or something like that? Can you kind of give us some examples of what you can assist with?
So I get a lot of people with throat issues because I just seem to get a lot. So it's funny, like as soon as I tune into them, so I do this grounding and then all of a sudden my voice is gone and I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. So, that's connected to shoulder. That's your whole throat chakra. So that's your shoulder, that's your thyroid. Those are like recurring issues on your, tonsils, etc. Um, and there's, so many times my beautiful clients, they're just not speaking their truth. I know it sounds so basic, but there's this fear of saying something. We're so programmed to be good and do the right thing and tell people what they want to hear. And so, with that, I actually really like helping people develop their own light language as well. So they have this, so they can get out of their thinking mind and they're just like using vibration as a sound or to release what no longer needs to be there. So that's a pretty common one is the throat. Seem to spend a lot of time on the solar plexus around power and like so many stomach issues and digestive issues around people's inability to really step into what they want to do. And again, it's like a lot of the people that see me, and I'm sure you're the same, they're in this sort of holding pattern. They're in their old 3D job or whatever and they want to step into accessing their gifts and being more of service and, being part of this beautiful 5D ascension process. And they're just, their stomach is just in knots from the fear of stepping into their power. So we help, again, statements, light language, clearing past lives as well, because a lot of times some of these beautiful people, they have been healers. They have been, outspoken, beautiful priestesses. I get all these images. And then, of course, they might have been killed for these things in past lives for various reasons. So we have to help shift those energetic blocks that might be subconsciously holding them back.
So you mentioned that past lives come to you. So when you're doing a session with somebody and something starts coming to you, again, I'm just going to go back to the shoulder because that's just easy. So let's just say, my shoulder's bothering me, and so you're working on me, and you have some past life stuff that comes up to you, or even some present stuff. Do you share the information with the client of what that is?
That's a really good question, Lisa, because I used to get so much detail about the past lives, like it was all coming in. And what I found is that some people really cling to those stories of that as a victim, right? So part of the thing that I'm trying to help people shift and shed is the attachment to the story. Well, see, my shoulder's sore because, I my arm was chopped off when I was, as a soldier in World War I. It's like, then they just cling to that. And you say, well, no.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting is the guides will only tell me the information that's useful for the client. And sometimes I have to, like, if I'm not getting information, they just say it's past life and I get no information. I'll just say, you know what? I think something happened. Let's just see if we can clear it. You don't need to know. And then that's what happens. But sometimes it's like a comical relief and we need to have a bit of a laugh. Like, actually, I think your husband chopped your arm off. Does that sound right? And then we just have a bit of a laugh and it seems to like boost the energy. So it's really, I just work with the guides. They're the ones that come in with the information. And I know it's for the highest good of the client. But yeah, sometimes I go, no, this client doesn't need to know that at all. They just don't need, you don't need to know why, because it's clinging to the story is really, we have to shift out of the story, the suffering story. We
Yeah.
really have to shift out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's so important because you used the perfect example. If somebody holds on to that, um, again, I don't think I even need to repeat what you said because you said it perfect. I would say it in exactly the same words, but this is something that we do, and we hold on to the story, and then we can't let the energy go because we're too connected to the story. And yeah, so there you go. Let it go.
Yes.
We don't always need to hold on to the story, right? Okay, so I kind of want to go into what karma clearing is. You because you talked. I'm trying to find my words again. Hang on just a second. Really, what I'm thinking about is we're going to talk about karma clearing, but let's talk about karma. So when you talk about karma clearing, what is your definition of karma?
So karma is basically just your what you do that is good, it puts you up a karma scoreboard. And it's good deeds and bad deeds. If you do good things happen. If you do bad things happen. Now, this is a really tricky thing to kind of as a concept to really understand, I think. I grew up being taught by a Catholic in the Old Testament. It's like there is a punishing God. Like you're gonna, there's gonna be locusts, there's gonna be, plagues and the floods if you don't do the right thing. So there was a lot of fear about that, right? And then of course the New Testament has, Jesus forgives you and everything. But there is still this law that, what you put out will come back. And so karmically, what we see is, I guess, people who've had some lives in the past where they might have acted and they might have chosen to act. They might have chosen those experiences to experience darkness or, um, you know, uh, acts that are not necessarily positive for the human race.
Mm-hmm.
They come back in this lifetime and they choose to have these lifetimes with few more challenges. So, but there are some people, and I see them, they're like, when I tune into them, they're like this donkey pack horse. They've chosen this lifetime to clear the karma of all of their ancestors. And so they have multiple issues. Like they're the bravest, most courageous, most incredible souls. Like they have challenge after challenge after challenge. Sometimes they feel quite broken. And I just go, oh my God, no, you are amazing. You're clearing karma for your family. So how I can clear karma is usually I help those types of people. Those are people that have taken on these huge burdens of clearing karma for their family. They've paid their dues, they've had chronic illness, they've had lots of financial issues, they might have had so they're sitting and living in their heart space. They are doing the work on themselves. They have sat in the frequency of forgiveness and forgiving others. Those are the people that I can help fast track that karma clearing process. There are people that I can't do anything for them about their own karma. That is their own thing that they have to work through. They have to be kind. They have to forgive. They have to stop resenting. I can't, I mean, part of the work, right? Part of the spiritual process is understanding your shadows. What's triggering you? What are you holding on to? What are the emotions of resentment, envy, jealousy, anger? How are they holding you back? They are going to hold back in a frequency in your body that is it's going to be negative, and you keep thinking, why me? Well, have a look. Are you in your heart space, and are you kind to yourself? Because that's another big thing, is that people can forgive everybody
So
else but
okay,
not themselves.
so how does karma manifest into physical ailments?
Well, it can come in any way, really. It can be in the form of chronic illness. It can be, yeah, I think chronic illness is, I've seen a lot of people with chronic illness that have had, yeah, karma from past lives. And they know it's karma, and they just sit in that Ho'oponopono prayer. They are these beautiful people. I've known a couple of clients, they're just doing the work. They keep showing up at the group meditations. They're just trying to forgive and release and forgive and release. And they just keep trusting and surrendering to the process. And it really does make a big difference. So chronic illness is a big one. Even injuries, like injuries are also karmically related, so injuries, accidents, really anything. And it happens so fast too these days. Like it's really, karma's not just from one life to a lifetime. Next lifetime. It's like it can happen within an instant. Like if you cut somebody off and then, give them the rude finger, like it's going to happen. You're going to get karma back really quickly. So that's how it works.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so are there some limitations to clearing karma? Like maybe, for example, some things are not supposed to be cleared out, or that you're unable to clear them?
Yes, 100%. There are just things that I can't interfere with, and that is their karma to clear themselves. They just have to go through what they have to go through to pay off their debt. Um, so definitely. And some people, I had a beautiful client last week. She knew that she'd had a dark past, and she just said she knew she had had a lifetime of like paying her dues. She had worked in very difficult situations, like in a prison with like offenders. She's done all this work. She just said, "No, I know I have all this karma. I know I've had a dark past. Can you help me?" And I said yes. I opened up my heart and I literally vomited like probably 4 times in the session. And then she just went, "Wow, my heart feels open." So, but that was some kind of higher self and contractual agreement that the universe, the guides, whoever orchestrates, that she saw a podcast that I was on. She said she knew she had to book with me. My guides gave me the message, it's time. And so it happened. So, but there's some people I tune into them and I just say, I can't clear this. This is yours. You have to do the work on your heart space. You really have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
sit in
and that makes
kindness.
sense. Yeah, 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 and again, I think that definitely makes sense. So, what kind of lifestyle changes, or what can we do, kind of on a daily basis, to either not create any more or any extra karma, or to help disperse it on our own?
I love this question, Lisa, because it's hard, right? This is hard. So, you know, it's really about, honestly, so many people, they have to be kind to themselves. Like the more that you are kind to yourself and you sit in your own kindness, not in a selfish, arrogant way, but that just emanates this sort of love frequency, right? So you have to notice yourself. So if you're happy and you're like filling your cup up, right? You're in this state of like, I feel happy with myself. Then you're going to walk down the street. You're not going to look at somebody's outfits and judge them. You're sitting from love. So you got to notice, right? You notice your judging thought. You notice you're gossiping. You have to say cancel. I cancel, all delete that whole thought I just had. And you send people love. You have to start noticing when you're judging. You have to start noticing when you're resentful. You have to start noticing when you're sitting in anger, and you have to straight away forgive yourself and forgive the others. It doesn't have to be to their face, right? Sometimes we get really badly triggered and I just have to sit and go, okay, I didn't handle that well. Please forgive me. I'm sending them love. I love like we're human, right? We're going to be triggered, but it's to notice what
Yeah,
is the shadow
yeah,
aspect of that trigger. Like what is it about that person that I'm not liking? It's probably something about myself that I don't like. So it's just shining that light onto me. Like, how do I love myself more? How do I judge myself less? Yeah. So I think, and you don't have to walk around like, baking things for your neighbors all day and just, like handing out $50 to every homeless person. It's not about that. It really is just like it's just smiling. It's just like, it's literally just trying to find joy, which is, I was just listening to your beautiful August, you know, um, Akashic Records reading, and it's like joy. Yes, we just need to find joy and love in the day, and bring that in our heart. Because when we're interacting with people in a shop or if with our family, if we've brought love and joy into a heart, karmically, it's just a beautiful place to be.
yeah, yeah. Well, I thank you for watching my little monthly thing. By the way, for all of you listeners, we're actually doing this interview in August, but it's not going to air until September. So
Yeah.
just a heads up, okay? So I do understand the timing is going to be a little bit off for this,
Yeah.
but you do bring in a very important factor. And when you're talking about, I'm catching myself judging people, or I'm catching myself feeling down on myself, or I'm catching myself living in fear, having fearful thoughts, or staying in fight or flight. You know, that's a heavy energy, and it's energy that makes us feel weighted, thick, heavy, dense. And you mentioned about the shoulder, carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. And what's happening with the universe now is that we're trying to move away from that heaviness and move into a little bit lighter. So for you, when you're working on somebody, because I also want to focus on that, you don't only do just physical or medical work. It's you can transmute a lot of these heavier, thicker, denser energies as well. So how do you do that to help the person feel more harmonious and have a lighter energy?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like a lot of people that end up saying me, I'm doing a lot of emotional and spiritual work because I just get those core, lessons about the soul and what people came to do, etc. That seems to come in as well. Um, so how I clear it is, it's interesting that we know we're not supposed to sit in fear and resentment. But then there's this thing that we beat ourselves up for having the fear and the resentment. And then it's like, then we're judging ourselves. So it's like this horrible battle where we know we have a bad thought, then we get mad that we're having the bad thought, and then we feel bad that we shouldn't be like that. So part of the process for me is to allow a client to actually have an emotion, because you can actually have fear, you can allow, because it is a normal human emotion. But if you really fully allow it and just call in your guides to it, literally can pass 10, 20, 30 seconds, maybe 90 seconds in that full expression of this human emotion that we are meant to experience as part of the earth game. But it's when we get stuck in it or beat ourselves up or judge it, or like it's like the art, the fighting, it's kind of a little bit of a dance, right? So when I tune into somebody's body and or caught emotion, I say, would you like to allow that to be there? Would you like to release it? And then they just say yes. And that's how it works. And then with my light codes, my light channeling, and I bring in channeled frequencies from galactic beings, from masters. Sometimes there's messages. There's a beautiful love and unconditional love frequency that comes through that just fills up those spaces, that allows that lightness to come in. Because once we extract, we need to fill up with this unconditional love. So I guess that's my process. How it actually works on a quantum physics level, everything I couldn't tell you, Lisa. I just know that my clients say, oh, I can feel that, or oh, I can, they cry when the light language comes through or something, and they can feel that unconditional love. Because at the core of it is that we just need to go back to this beautiful unconditional love that's always there. The guides are there. Unconditional love for self and others.
Yeah. Yeah. So, energy work is a little bit challenging sometimes because, we as humans, we're used to that instant gratification. And sometimes energy work, you may feel it working on the physical structure, or you may not. People that are a little bit thicker, denser, maybe just associated with their body, sometimes they don't have the experience of being able to feel what you're shifting and moving around. So we don't feel like you're doing anything. And if you say, I come in again, go back to the shoulder, I have frozen shoulder or something, and I can't lift my shoulder up, and you do your work and you release some old past, energy patterns that was causing that to be a weak spot. And then the body is set up so that it can heal itself. But I don't look at it that way. I look at it as the recipient of, oh, well, I'm supposed to be able to raise my arm again. So, kind of explain to us how energy work actually works in the body and what we can expect after a session.
I absolutely love that question, Lisa, because people can have expectations around, I'm here for my shoulder, but then she worked on my heart the whole time. And then they can, so it sometimes it is about that I am simply pointing out an, a pattern in your life that you actually need to change. Your shoulder is connected to your throat chakra, and you have not been speaking your truth. The more that you speak your truth, so I can only do so much. I can release a past life. I can help clear the anger or resentment from when you were 5 or 6 or 8, that where some of these patterns started with your parents or but ultimately the work is with you. We can't just put off all our healing to someone else. I'm a facilitator with my vibration, and the work is with you. It's the hard shadow work. It's like, where am I holding on to resentment? And also, is there a secondary gain of me staying injured? So that's this concept in psychology, and that sometimes it's like, well, maybe I don't really want to get rid of my migraines because this is the only time that I have alone. This is all subconscious, right? Maybe if I
Yeah.
fix my shoulder, I'm going to have to carry in the groceries. I'm going to have to go back to mowing the lawn. I'm going to have to do all the washing. And at the moment, I've got an excuse. Everyone else is hanging up the washing for me. So actually the shoulder is telling you that you have not been setting boundaries, you have not been speaking your truth. So but they may not see all those patterns. So that's the gift that I have, is that I can see the bigger picture stuff of the the reason what the shoulder is. It's like it could be related to your boss. And it's like you're actually going to have that pain in your shoulder until you quit that job. That sounds drastic, but that's what the messages that come in.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
layered. This is not a physical thing. This is a spiritual and emotional process.
Yeah. And this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because it's like you have all the magic. You have the ability to be able to scan a body and see, okay, well, there's something that's going on in your left lung. And I can figure out that, okay, well, this is an energy pattern that's there and this is what it's tied to. I can do my part. But if the mind doesn't shift, or if the mind doesn't recognize what the pattern is that they're following, then, and you break that pattern, I call it deprogramming. We're basically deprogramming the way that our mind has been thinking. And so that's a little bit of a challenge. And so I really wanted you to be able to say what you just said, because I want people to understand that we can work on you all day long, and we can help with the wounds and with the emotions and all of that stuff. But if the mind doesn't shift its way of processing and thinking, then you're going to just stay in that pattern. And to me, that's kind of karmic-y.
It
you know,
is. It is,
it's
Lisa.
yeah,
That's correct.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. Because it's really
yeah,
interesting, going
yeah.
back to the shoulder.
So
This could be really, it sounds like, there's a lot of resentment stuck in your shoulder sometimes. Like it's like, you know um anyway, if you don't shift the resentment, and if you don't forgive, like, forgiveness is a huge part of the whole karmic process. Forgiveness of others and forgiveness of self.
absolutely,
You can cut your cord, and you
yeah,
can have it from an intellectual level, and that's true. It's like, oh no, I've forgiven my dad or whatever. You're like, no,
yeah,
it's from your
yeah,
heart. And that's hard work. Oh, it's so hard.
yeah,
This is a
yeah,
hard game. This
yeah.
earth game
Well,
is
and
hard, Lisa.
it is, and and again, and saying the words is the easy part. But getting down into the core of it is where it's so layered, and where it doesn't just always happen with a snap of a finger. And the forgiveness thing is a point that I'm glad that you said that, because I talk to people all the time. I've forgiven my mom. I have forgiven my rapist. I have forgiven my father. I've forgiven all of this, and I've come to terms. But is it just the mind that is saying the words, Or is it going down deeper to the energetic level that was actually affected by the act that was done? And so the question comes in to where, can you help that deeper level as well, so that somebody can process through to get to the idea where the energy is in alignment with the thoughts?
Yeah. I look, that's really interesting that you mentioned talk about sexual abuse or stuff like that, because you know, I will get information. So, I mean, this happens a lot actually. So I'll just say, look, there's powerlessness. It's like you're 12 years old. It's really, really intense. I can feel it. And they go, oh, nothing. And then and then, they say, oh, well, I was raped. I said, well, that's still there. I feel like I want to throw up. And they said, no, I've had therapy for that. I said, this is still in your energy body.
Yeah.
And the guides are telling me that. So I can't, so some people are very, it's like, oh, I thought I processed that. And I was the same. Like I thought I had lots of issues with my mom and, I went back home to Canada for a month, and and she's shown up in mediumship. She's saying sorry, and I'm laughing. I'm saying, I love you, mom. I know she's there all the time, and I can feel her energy, but there's aspects, right? There's aspects of every event. There's an aspect where you can be angry, you can be sad, and you can have regret, and then you can have shame of all of the same event. So you might have shed your anger, and you might have intellectually understood why your mother did that or whatever, but then all of a sudden you have a new feeling. Oh my goodness, I haven't processed that sadness, or I haven't processed the regret or the shame. So there's so many layers to an event, a situation. Um, so every time you have a new emotion, then you have to then have this new level of forgiveness. I forgive you for being sad, etc. I hope, like, it's and you can do the work your whole life. It just keeps, the onion layers just keep going, but they shed much faster. And sometimes I'm tuning into these beautiful spiritual clients that I have that feel all these energies. It's just like dusting like cobwebs. I go, we're just dusting the cobwebs here. We're not pulling
Yeah.
out huge things. They've done the work. They've sat in forgiveness. They have these beautiful hearts. They're so connected. And I'm just helping them clear away things that are, that are coming through. So it's not
Yeah.
like hard extraction.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because you and I, again, we're on the same page. I use the same scenario. It's almost like when you empty out the room, but then you have to sweep the floor and vacuum the rug and do the dusting. You got to clear out the debris. It's like you've done the heavy lifting part, but there's still remnants or particles that you kind of have to still clean up. And a lot of people don't understand and why. I mean, I'm one of them. Oh my gosh, I've been doing this work for 30 years trying to clean up all my stuff. And it's like, I think that I get over something, I got over something, 10 years ago, when my mom died. And then all of a sudden I'm driving down the highway and some crazy memory comes up from something that she said to me or something that I had to deal with because of her. And it's like, really? It's like, I thought I dealt with that. What? I've been doing this for 30 years and it's just now coming up. What's up with this? I don't get it. But again, it just talks about what my point is how multidimensional these emotions are and these energy patterns are, and why sometimes we can't always do it on our own. Sometimes we need a little extra help to to vacuum the floor, to dust off the shelves, to really clean up the space, so that we can get through it. But I really think it's important, and I really wanted to focus on this particular question and this particular topic because people just think it's one and done, and a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's really multidimensional and it takes a lot of work. Plus, like what we went back to is that, okay, I recognize that I've changed my thought patterns, but there's something still inside me that's coming up. So let's clear that energy. And then vice versa. Okay, I've cleared the energy, but I haven't retrained my brain to function in a way that now is in balance with my energy pattern. And so I think it's an important concept for all of us to recognize that this is a process, and we have to adjust. you've got to adjust to it either way. And, thanks to people like you, Peggy, you and people like you that can kind of help give us some guidance along the way to shed light on where we are in this healing process. So thank you. Do you have anything else to add to that before we go on to the next subject?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think like the perfectionist type people, which is probably like you and me, who like to like, make sure we have it all cleaned. It's like that's the other layer. It's like you have to shed the perfectionist part that you feel like you have to have it all clean. So it's totally okay to think that it's never going to be like all gone. It's just what's really beautiful about it when you do get triggered or if it comes up, when you're at this stage, you just allow it. It can go in like 10 seconds. You're not getting stuck, you're
Yeah.
not getting sick, you're not getting injured. So I think the expectation that it's ever going to all go, but it's just like this like beautiful acknowledgement of this. Oh, okay, another contraction. Oh, thanks, mom, I never thought of that. And thanks, guides, thanks, divine, thanks for showing me that I still need to get rid of my anger or like allow my anger to be there. Yeah, so I think, yeah, I can feel like, that perfection. Like I can feel like, you're like me. You're like things, perfect. So it's like, hang on, why
Yeah.
isn't it
Well,
on?
we want to be done with it, right?
We want to be done with it.
let's just,
Exactly.
yeah, let's just be done with it before we have to keep going
Exactly.
back and do the replay thing.
Yeah. So
But
then we have
again,
to,
it does get easier, like you said.
it
Yeah,
does get a
it does
lot
get
easier.
easier.
Yeah. And as long as, and then we're kinder to ourselves, right? When it
Yeah,
comes up.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to jump to spiritual gifts because you have a number of them, and you have mentioned just a few: light language, this way to feel energy. You're a channel. you've got a lot of things going on with this beautiful body that you exist in, and this beautiful connection that you have. So, to you, when we talk about spiritual gifts, what is your definition of a spiritual gift?
Well, we all have spiritual gifts. A spiritual gift is just being able to connect to our divine birthright, which is this connection to unity consciousness, cosmic consciousness, um, whatever definition you want to use. Because there is this sort of, the Akashic records, the unity consciousness, whatever you want to believe, how you want to define it. We have access to this information. We all do. Um, um, my crown just happens to be a little bit more fine-tuned for it, but we have to kind of think of it like a Marvel movie. Everyone has different superpowers, and some people have incredible gifts that you might not necessarily see as the obvious one. So I'm not a psychic. I don't predict the future. That's definitely, and I don't see, spirit does come in sometimes, and I will get the odd message from a loved one that's passed. And it's only specifically usually around, the forgiveness element or helping somebody process. I'll just say, oh, there's a man here smoking a cigar. I don't know, but that it doesn't happen very often. But generally, mine is a claircognizance, a knowing, um, and then of course this ability to go into a body and pick up what emotions and events happened at particular times and ages. It still blows me away that this is something that even that my brain has, that spirit has given me. Um, and the channeled information is coming in strongly as well from different spirit guides. So and the light
Mm-hmm.
language, but I believe everybody has a capacity to speak light language. And if they can clear some of their blocks and fears. Yeah, so I think that's answered your question. And then the
Yeah.
transmutation is something that I feel very grateful to be able to help people.
Yeah. So, I have people ask me all the time, it's like, what is my blockage? What is blocking me from seeing or from hearing or from recognizing, what my gift is? So, can you kind of shed a little bit of light on what the typical blockage is and maybe how to address it?
That's a really good question. Look, from what when I tune into bodies, like a lot of times, so there's a number of different layers that happen. So there's past lives that can affect the person's ability to want to connect because of subconscious fear that's related to connecting. I do see entities attached to, like, I know some people might not necessarily believe in that, or, but there are actual entities attached to the crown and the third eye that it's almost like a lens cap. Sometimes when I tune in, I go, oh, you have a lens cap on your third eye. Like, no wonder you can't see anything. Or there's like a darkness on the on the on the crown. And look, sometimes if you're not living in your heart space and you want to have gifts to, like, it's like you want to have a party trick, or you're not in alignment, you're not going to be tuned in. Like, it's a very like, I can lose alignment, like, very quickly. I have to be in this unconditional love of service for someone, and without any attachment to the outcome. Like, as soon as I get stuck in my ego, or I'm like trying to impress someone, like, there's no information coming in. It has to just literally be for the highest good of the client. Like, it's like, I don't know how those people that go on those Netflix shows and do all their readings, because nothing comes in for me unless I'm sitting in that heart space with a client, and I brought it in, brought in all the information. So I think there's alignment's really key. Like, why do you want your gifts? Like, what is it about it? And how is it going to be
Mm-hmm.
of service? And not everybody is going to have every gift. Some people have this beautiful gift of transmission, and they don't know, they feel like they're not doing anything. And I say, oh my God, no, you are
Yeah.
so, my God, you're just like this angel on earth, which is, something that you spoke about in your transmission as well. But it's like, they have this frequency and they think they're doing nothing. And I'm like, no, you are going into shops and people are their hearts are bursting and you don't even realize it. So that's part of, you don't have to get messages. Like, I don't get messages for myself very often. I'm not getting, the spirit only gives me messages for the client. I have to go to others and do exchanges to find out what the messages are for me. So,
Yeah.
that's how it works. Like,
Yeah. Well, I understand that because I have a very hard time doing my own records, and a lot of the times if I ask a question, and this what I have found, if I'm too emotionally involved in what the question is, my answers will just be mumbo jumbo. And so sometimes I may be too attached to it, so I need to go to somebody else to give me some guidance so that I can get back on track. Yeah.
That
So
that is
I
a really good
understand that
point. It's the
part.
emotional attachment is exactly correct. And for me, like, the less information I
Yeah.
know about the person, the less that I'm mixing up the 3D. Like, if they give me their
Yeah.
whole, like, if they don't tell me anything, whatever's coming in, I know is
Mhm.
pure channeled information. I'm not mixing up
Yeah.
anything that I know prior. So tend to, so
Yeah.
that's why it's very hard to work with
Yeah.
friends and family. I just can't, right? I mean, I can transmute and
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Yeah.
help with, like, but it's very hard for me to, yeah, to do the reading otherwise. So
Well, yeah. What you're saying is, I think it's really important for people to listen to because once your mind starts jumping in, it creates a blockage for the information to come through us. And that's what I'm hearing you say. Is that right?
I think so, yeah, for sure. And I think at the start, when you're starting to, like, play with your gifts, or sort of like wonder if you have gifts, I think claircognizance is the hardest, because, as I said, it comes in as a thought, and you say, did I make this up, or is that actually something? And it was only when I was working in these groups, I was constantly working in groups with, like, in my mentorship, and with, like, in my training and all this mentoring with Patrice. And I'd say, I'm getting a thing in the knee, and everyone'd say, oh, me too, me too, me too. And then I'd say, and it was just, it's confirmation after confirmation. So of course, when you first start playing around with claircognizance, you're going to have these doubts, right? But it's
Yeah.
when you just sit in that trust and knowing, it's like, the beautiful thing comes in, and then it just, time and time again. And then every once in a while, I'll say, oh, something happened when you were 16. They go, I don't remember. And then you go, oh, well, you're not meant to remember. You have to trust, if the guides are telling me this, like, you just have to.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get an email later, oh, I remember now, but you just have to
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah. Well, and I think that trust is the biggest thing. And again, what you're saying is what every person that starts on this journey goes through. Is that my mind or is that real? And so I want, and the reason why I want to share this information is because if any, if any of you listeners are thinking about being able to move into this world and maybe exploring a little bit more about being a medical intuitive or an energy healer, or being able to clear some of this energy, that's the beginning step. And that's what we all go through to get to where we are. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've learned how to jump in and out. I've learned how to figure out what's what. And that's why I know I don't do my own records.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
I live and learn, but you've done the same thing. And, what I'm hearing is that, your story is very typical. And so I do want to give people encouragement that it is a process. And it's just like you said, when people start on this journey to get confirmation and to start trusting and trust, this trust thing is so important for moving into this new way of being. And like you said, letting go of everything that you're talking about, removing all of this old all the karmic patterns, all of this old energy that's keeping my body out of balance, and, all of these things. When you can trust that you can get out of your head and let go of those stories and let go of that energy, then you move into this place of what I can't remember. I don't know why this is coming to me, but a place of bliss. And I can't remember if you said that or not, but it's, it's moving into the happy place. It's moving into our joyful place. But so many of us don't trust that it's safe there. And they don't trust that we'll be guided and protected. Did you go through that experience?
Yeah, 100%. Oh, yeah, for sure. And, I have to say too, I wanted to
Yeah.
mention for people listening that part of the healing, you don't wake up feeling amazing the next day. Sometimes you actually get a cold or a flu because your body is shedding. So the process is it's not linear. It can be it's really up and down. And that's actually quite normal. So, I mean, part of when I
Yeah.
started channeling, Spirit told me to rest, and I started getting a sore throat because there was this big throat
Yeah.
expansion, and I did not. And then I kept going and I kept going, and I ended up with pneumonia and it's like, oh, you're a healer. I had like 8 healings, right? I had the biggest team. And then by the end, it was like, no, you just have to go get antibiotics because you didn't rest. And it was like, the universe said you need to do nothing for 3 weeks, but that was shedding all the layers in my heart chakra and in my throat chakra so I could hold the expansion of
Yeah.
light and frequencies that are coming in when you channel. And so that's how it works. It's like you have this expansion and then you have a shedding. And you have to trust the
Mhm.
shedding process. It could be fatigue, it could be pain, it could be worsening of your symptoms. It's part of the beautiful process of the metamorphosis of who you're going to be. Yeah, you have to trust that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to end this. Thank you. Okay, so because we are wrapping up on time. So, is there anything that you want to share that we did not go over?
You alluded to it once, but I really love the way you talked about it. Groups are so powerful. You shouldn't do this alone. And if you can't afford a one-on-one, there's like lots of different modalities. There's the Medical Intuitive Directory that I'm a part of with Maricel and Patrice and Amy. There's lots of different groups available. I'm starting these, cheaper groups, like 4-week groups to help with their healing, and you're working together, and it's never random, those groups. There's always some kind of like karmic ties that you kind of need each other in that container to help shed. But yeah, just don't do it alone, and just keep trusting the process because yeah, we're all heading to this beautiful new earth, and this is where we're heading. So
Yeah.
you got to do your work.
Yeah. And it's exciting. I can't wait to get to where we're going. This has been a fun journey. So you mentioned groups, and you mentioned a lot of different things in that little last statement that you named. So first of all, tell people how. Well, number one, you do sessions by Zoom. You don't do. It's not just in person. You do long
No,
distance.
no, I'm
Okay,
only on
so
Zoom
I
at
want to
this
make sure
stage.
everybody.
Yeah, I'm on Zoom.
Okay.
I'm based in
Perfect.
Australia, but I cater for all time zones across the world. At the moment,
Okay.
I limit my sessions because of the energetic like process for me. It takes me an hour and a
Yeah.
half to prepare. It's a really big thing for my body energetically.
Yeah.
So at the moment,
Yeah.
I'm maybe by the time this comes out, I've expanded, but I'm just doing one 90-minute session a day at the moment because of the frequencies. I'm starting to collaborate with somebody to do 2-on-1 sessions, and that's easier energetically on my body. I've met
Mhm.
an amazing healer who is so gifted, and our frequencies match really well. So we're going to be offering. I do some meditations. I'm doing some joint meditations with him. His name is Kyle Menges. And it's all links on my website, peggyo.com.au. And I also have a medical intuitive YouTube channel that I interview people. It's just a small little channel, Lisa, but I've just started the process, and I really enjoy connecting with other healers and amazing people. And I'm hoping maybe by the time this comes out, I'll have it all organized. I would love to. I'm trying to organize a retreat in Portugal. So that'd be really exciting for the
Yeah.
end of November, December. It's a short turnaround, but I think people need to be in person. We need to hug each other, you know?
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
I'm.
yeah. At some point, we all need to be together and hug, share that light for sure. So, okay. So, if you guys didn't catch Peggy's website, it will be over in the video description. So just hit the description, scroll down to the bottom of the description, and you'll see Peggy's website and her contact information there. And again, Peggy, thank you for joining us. It was great. And for all of you guys watching, thank you so much for spending your time with us. And I hope to see you next time.